Bitcoin is about to go on a run that breaks the all-time high. All it needs to do is validate this inverse head and shoulders on the 4-hour by breaking $66,000. That inverse head and shoulders breakout actually leads to a larger macro double bottom with a target of 96,000 USD. Hi everyone, it's Louis Crypto here. Can I just thank you for joining me today? Please do try and stay as long as possible. There is going to be a lot of key information. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment and share as we're 50 subs away from 9K. Now, as you already saw at the beginning of the video, we have some bullish patterns and currently Bitcoin is trying to break out. So we will look at that. But first of all, let's start on the daily time frame. Let's look at our macro level of support. And for me personally, the most important one was right over here at 59K. We were using this area back in May, and once we had lost it on that very day, we were saying if we can actually reclaim it, you will see a bottom and we will attack this high. What happened at this point is that it is resistance, so it makes sense to pull back, but the assumption is due to this being the reclaim low, it will be used as support as you see over here, but then from this point actually break out. This was not the case, and so you just prolong the breakout because eventually we are breaking out. We are in a bull market, and that means higher highs and higher low. And this whole entire range, even though you can look at the lows and say we consistently went lower like that, if we actually zoom out, you can see this whole entire area is above this last low, and that's what matters to me. So actually nothing was ever bearish, and by reclaiming the levels, you of course going back into bull mode, and we're starting to see that process since my call all the way back down over here at 56K, where I was suggesting that now that we have reclaimed 56 after losing it, could have continued lower, but it chose to form a higher low and then reclaim it within that same day. You had seen multiple rejections over here, and at this point people were losing confidence again and calling for lower. But if you were following along with my updates on YouTube, I made a Bitcoin video on this day suggesting that we're actually using 56K as support, and by holding this, continuing to hold 56K, you actually see the reclaim of 59K, and I called for a pump all the way up to this wick. And at that point, if you've been following along with my Twitter posts, you would have noticed in the last day that, and obviously beforehand, but in the last day I made a specific post showing you that this is an inverse head and shoulders. And I drew the right shoulder down here, but please do understand that it doesn't necessarily need to come down over here. The reason why I did is because to the left, it was sort of in a similar location, but we are focused on this 59K low. So in order to keep this position valid, this bias valid, we need to create a higher low, create a support above 59K, and that's why we drew this over here at 59K. But can we make the inverse head and shoulders right shoulder higher? Absolutely. It doesn't need to be a horizontal neckline. Most cases it's not, just like this diagonally downward sloping one. Here we have a diagonally upward sloping one, which you have already seen on the 4-hour time frame. But very quickly, before we dive into the inverse head and shoulders on the lower time frame so you can see it clearer, this pattern itself has now become a macro double bottom. And as you've seen already, if I can actually now show you how to gain these targets, it's from here to the neckline. And putting that on the actual breakout on this neckline. So we're waiting for a daily candle close above this 72K line. And then you've got that target of 76K. Now, there are other things giving us this target using the Fibonacci's. As you can see over here, boom, smack bang on the money. The first line of the second targeted area. So we know Bitcoin is approaching 96 to 109K, but due to the double bottoms target actually being on 96K and this macro double bottoms target being completed at that point, you must say that a rejection makes sense, and it's also part of your final targeted area, so it makes sense for a pullback. Guys, if you want to be able to do this with my ability, the same level, like how I'm explaining the charts to you on a daily basis, how easily it is for you to understand, just private message me. I've got multiple things in place like a Discord community, an ebook, or even one-to-one private sessions, which of course will be the best. But use the links down below if you are interested in that. Otherwise, keep watching as many of my videos as possible. It doesn't matter if you don't hold the crypto. If you're trying to learn how to read the charts, how to trade, how to invest, you know, and you're learning constantly from me, try and you know, take in as much information as possible. So there are other sources. There's the Twitter and the YouTube that is free. But of course, if you want something more one-to-one or a private community of highly skilled individuals, just like myself, you know what to do. The links are found in the description down below. Now let's head over to the 4-hour time frame, and please don't forget, if you haven't already, to go and share this update with a friend in your Telegram chats over on Twitter. It helps grow the channel, bump up that algorithm. Not only will it help us achieve 9 and eventually 10K, but it spreads the word so people are not getting brainwashed and scammed by all the people selling them dreams, hopes and dreams. Here we bring the reality. Now over here we've got this inverse head and shoulders you previously saw earlier. I just explained about my post from yesterday where I mentioned that we're repeating this same inverse head and shoulders, and in the image on my Twitter I drew it down over here just because the reclaimed low is 59K, so you want to hold that as support. So that's why I drew the right shoulder at 59K, because you know we've only got what we can work with, and that makes sense. That's a reclaim levels, previous support and resistance. So main thing is we need to create a higher low above that, and it doesn't have to get down there. On the 4-hour time frame, we can actually see multiple bullish crosses. You got the golden cross as well. Usually when you see this happening, this bearish cross is called the death cross. Now we're getting the golden cross. So it's telling us, at least on the 4-hour time frame, as of right this second, we are shifting from a downtrend to an uptrend with confirmations of that. Let's now see one more confirmation, and you've already seen it at the beginning of the video. Break this level, $66,000 on the 4-hour time frame. I would love a daily candle close above this point. So that would be this red candle right over here, $66,140. A daily candle close above this point validates this inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now let me get you that specific target, but already we know the target will be a new all-time high, and then by breaking out 72K you can tell that we're going on that path to 96K, also proved by the fibs. So you can see already this inverse head and shoulders breakout above $66,140 will take us to $82,000. Personally, I like looking at the Fibonacci levels, so I would rather say the 1414. But if I move it back to where it was and I actually increase the range that my Fibonacci is using, because currently I'm measuring this final move down, but of course this dip started from a little bit higher, so I can move my Fibonacci up a little bit, keep it on that same low, and yes, it's telling you between 80 and 84K. So maybe for this situation it would make sense to call it 80K, because this is the entire dip range and this is the first significant Fibonacci resistance after breaking the all-time high. And previously, without using this Fibonacci and moving this arrow exactly where it was, the exact target out of this inverse head and shoulders is specifically $81,990. And you could see a wick going through the 1272 absolutely to meet this, right? But this area is usually where we get at least a short-term pullback, so that's why I would just use the 1272, $80,000. What I'll do is go back to the daily time frame, zoom out a little bit. So again, daily candle close above this. There are some other levels in the way, of course, before a straight line up. It's never a straight line up. Also, I'm not saying that we meet this target on this date. That's why most of the time I draw them straight up, so you guys realize that I'm never doing time-based things, just price targets. So, and we believe that these price targets will get met as long as certain paths are followed and certain key levels are maintained. So what we would need to see to continue to all these targets, our targets now being $80,000 and $96,000 out of this double bottom and inverse head and shoulders pattern right over here. Now, before I move on, I need to scale down to the lower time frame one more time and tell you that if we fail to break out of here and we start losing the 20 and losing this low, this is still part of the right shoulder. So don't get thrown off if we get a rejection over here. But of course, if we want to break out now, if we want the direct next move immediately to be a new all-time high, we need to see a daily candle close above $66,140. And the reason why I wanted to zoom out again and place this fib back on this high over here is because you can see that these two patterns targets are in two separate areas. The target out of this smaller inverse head and shoulders takes us to this first Fibonacci target area between the 1272 and the 1618. Now this is where we anticipate a rejection, just like my explanation up here, where we meet a pattern's target, you're going to reject and pull back. So we've got something also down over here, a smaller, a micro pattern. There's a micro and a macro target. The micro 80k, the macro 96k. So what we need to see from Bitcoin is once we reach this first targeted area, it doesn't necessarily need to be this specific line, but this targeted area, once we hit that 1272, as soon as you hit 77k, we can say, okay, this is now an area that we do expect Bitcoin to slow down at, to create support or pull back a little bit for continuation to the next target. And at that point, then we see, market wide crash once again, similar to what we just saw now, where you see Bitcoin dumping 20+%, and altcoins will get absolutely smashed, minimum of minus 65% to minus 85%, sort of what you just saw now. And that's what we anticipate between the price of 96 and 109k. But due to the double bottom over here, the macro double bottom, that has got a specific target of 96k. That's in line with the very first specific line of the second targeted area, where at the point of meeting the first line, although there are higher targets, you do actually say, or at least in your mind, believe all targets are met. Now, yes, there's still percentage gains to be made here. Altcoins could pump loads with it at 200%, 300% within this space over here, or whatever they want to do. But this is the area where you want to take profits, because you are just going to get that minus 65, minus 85% dip from this location. And so you don't have to time it so exact, but as long as you're taking, looking, if you want to take some profits to reinvest lower, already at this point, it starts to make sense, is what I'm trying to get at, because it's the first target of your second targeted area. And this means that all Fibonacci's targets have been completed. I know there's still two above, correct? But we're looking at this as a separate area. This is like your middle point, just like this is an area and this is your middle point. We need to break this to get to that. But of course, to even get into this box, we need to tackle the lower end. So that's why, okay, if we are going to hit this, meet this inverse head and shoulders target, pull back, then break through. As soon as we hit that 2 fib 96k, you have to consider all targets being met, even though there are targets at 104 and 109k. That can happen, but it just makes sense. As soon as we approach this area, it's a good time to get out of the market short term, or it could be that you've made so much money, you're happy and you don't want to get back in. But we do believe that after one more dip from here, there is still room to go to 115, 120, 125, 130,000 US dollars. But what needs to come for that is a dip for me to place my fibs on to actually show you that. So we need to, of course, take this step by step. But at least for now, what I can tell you is that we've got two patterns on the daily time frame. This inverse head and shoulders, a micro one, and this macro double bottom. The smaller one will help the larger one play out. And what we need to see for all of this to come to fruition is a daily candle close above 66,000 US dollars. It's this wick on this red candle on your Bitcoin chart. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share if you want to get educated so you can read the charts exactly like me with confidence. Whether the market is going up or down, you'll be able to get targets for either direction, so you can never get thrown off. You just simply wait for which path it decides to take, but you can never get caught off guard because you know the exact targets for up and down. If you want to do that one-on-one with me, check out the one-to-one mentorship. If you want to do it in your own time and you have that forever, check out the ebook. If you want to do it as a group and have access to other highly skilled traders, 6 figures, 7 figures, there are people of all levels there, even down to 4 figures. But the point is that we have a community where I'm in there daily helping you out, as well as other highly skilled traders sharing their opinions. And these are people that I've personally taught. but you also gain access to weekly mentorship sessions as well. So live streams where I share my screen, analyze all our charts, and just bring confidence, as well as teaching you guys how to do it exactly like me on a weekly basis. Cheers, everyone. All the links you need are down in the description and the pinned comment section, or in my Twitter bio. Cheers.